A federal jury has convicted 3 former police officers of violating George Floyd's civil rights, and we now know President Biden's nominee for the Supreme Court. Let's welcome back distinguished lecturer in law at Georgetown, Frederick Lawrence, for his take on both topics. Always great talking to you, Frederick. So first, let's talk about the 3 officers convicted of failing to give George Floyd medical aid, and 2 of the 3 were convicted of not intervening to stop former officer Derek Chauvin from using excessive force that killed George Floyd. All 3 could face life in prison, but what do you anticipate the sentence being?
The sentence could actually be somewhat lighter because you do have state sentences arising out of the murder. So the judge has set sentencing for some time in the future. We'll see how that goes. But because a death did result, he has got the possibility all the way up to and including the death penalty. That's highly unlikely here. But there could be a substantial sentence. I'm betting it's going to be in the shorter range, probably more like 5 to 10 years.
You mentioned that state trial coming up in June for aiding and abetting murder and manslaughter. Do you anticipate a plea deal in that?
I think at this point it's very likely. You have the Chauvin conviction in the state murder case. You now have the federal civil rights case leading to a conviction. I think at this point it is very much in the interest of these defendants to try to strike some sort of a deal and to wind things up, because the likelihood now of being found innocent of the aiding and abetting count seems fairly remote.
You know, on the one hand, these trials and convictions are very, very rare for police officers. On the other hand, when they do happen, the penalties are severe. We see what happened to Derek Chauvin. But what do you think these trials and convictions mean for policing?
Hopefully what they mean for policing is more attention to the need to train police about what to do when there's excessive force being used by a fellow officer, that you must intervene. The great blue wall where you don't question another officer does not get it done in cases like this. So hopefully these cases will have an impact on training. The vast majority of police officers in these situations are good police officers trying to do the right thing. This should incentivize them to see how serious it is when you step over the line and don't do the right thing.
All right, let's move on and talk about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. This is someone that you're rooting for. She would be taking over for Justice Stephen Breyer should the confirmation go her way. We've talked before. She is qualified, just so happens to be black and just so happens to be a woman. What do you want people to know about her?
A number of things to know about her. She is supremely well qualified. Harvard College, Harvard Law School. I know that's not everybody's taste, but the fact is those are very serious credentials. Another thing she brings to the table is she was a public defender. This will be the first Supreme Court justice since the late Thurgood Marshall with experience in the criminal defense bar. That experience coming into the room and into Supreme Court deliberations will be very important. She's been a trial judge, she's been an appellate judge, and she's also served as vice chair of the Sentencing Commission. Sentencing issues are very important before the court on criminal justice issues. We were just talking about sentence issues a moment ago in the context of the Minneapolis trial. So I think she will bring all that to bear, as well as the fact that we will now have a court that will have 4 women and 5 men. That's a first in history. It will have 3 people of color. That's a first in history. So we are getting a Supreme Court that more and more represents, at least in those terms, the diversity of America. Make no mistake about it, when she replaces Stephen Breyer, and I'm assuming she will be confirmed, it still will be a 6-3 conservative court. This will still be an overwhelmingly conservative court, arguably much more conservative than the overall American population.
All right, Frederick Lawrence, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for sharing your insight and expertise. Until next time.
Pleasure being with you. I'll look forward to it.
All right.